I always thought my life was bulletproof until the night I pointed my gun at the man who would end up saving me. Irony has a cruel sense of humor, doesn't it? One moment, you're the law in uniform, untouchable. The next, you're bleeding in the hands of a stranger who sees through every wall you've ever built. New York was never kind to men like us. The city devoured weakness, mocked tenderness, and yet somehow, in the middle of all its neon chaos, it gave me him. Ethan. A doctor who carried light in his touch, warmth in his voice, and a defiance I couldn't look away from. I was Detective Adrian Hale, the alpha who had learned to cage his heart behind the badge. He was the beta who broke rules not by fighting them, but by healing what the world tried to shatter. We were never supposed to meet, but fate doesn't ask permission. It started on a rain-slick night in Brooklyn, the kind of night where crime hangs thick in the air like fog. I was chasing a suspect, adrenaline pounding, when the world tilted gunfire, a flash of pain, asphalt biting into my skin. The last thing I saw before everything went black was a pair of steady hands catching me. His hands. When I woke in the ER, the sterile scent of antiseptic burned my lungs. He stood there, shoulders squared, eyes locking on me like he already knew every secret I'd spent years burying. "You're stubborn," he said, his tone sharp but his gaze unbearably soft. Most men wouldn't be conscious after that much blood loss. I smirked through the haze, because sarcasm was the only weapon I had left. "Guess I'm not most men." He didn't laugh. He just pressed harder on my wound, forcing me to feel both the sting of pain and the strange comfort of his presence. That was the first time I noticed the quiet storm in his expression, like he was fighting battles no one else could see. The city tried to swallow us whole. Every encounter after that should have been fleeting, an officer and a doctor crossing paths in emergencies. Nothing more. But life has a way of orchestrating collisions, pulling us together when we least expected it. A broken rib here, a knife wound there. I became his most frequent patient, and he became the only person who could disarm me without a single weapon. Still, nothing was simple. I was an alpha who had sworn to protect and control, trained to hide weakness. He was a beta, gentle but relentless, constantly reminding me that healing wasn't just about flesh and bone, it was about the heart. And my heart was a battlefield I refused to let anyone enter. Yet every time his fingers brushed my skin, every time his voice cut through the chaos, I felt the walls crack. I hated him for it. I needed him for it. The night it all broke open, the city was in flames. A hostage situation gone wrong, my squad outnumbered, chaos echoing in the air. I saw Ethan there, dragged in by circumstance, his white coat stained with blood that wasn't his. My gun shook, my lungs burned, and all I could think was, I can't lose him. Not him. When I finally pulled him into safety, his face was pale, his body trembling, but his eyes, God, his eyes burned with something I wasn't ready to name. "Why do you keep risking yourself like this?" I demanded, my voice rougher than the sirens wailing around us. "Because someone has to," he whispered. "And because, every time you walk through those hospital doors, Adrian, I realize I'd rather patch you up than bury you." The words hit harder than any bullet ever could. For the first time in years, my badge felt heavy, my mask slipping. And in the ruins of a night that could have ended us both, I realized wasn't just saving my life. He was rewriting it. The weeks after that night were hell. I thought pulling Ethan out of danger would mean things could go back to normal, but nothing about us was normal anymore. I could still hear his words echoing in my head, slicing through every defense I had left. He was right, I had spent years pretending my heart was made of steel, but the truth was, I had been afraid. Afraid of wanting more, afraid of needing someone, afraid of love. And now, every time I closed my eyes, it was Ethan I saw, his steady hands, his fire, the way his voice broke when he admitted he'd rather save me than lose me. But the world didn't stop for us. It never does. My squad was under pressure, the city sinking into another wave of violence. Every assignment pulled me further from him, yet every wound, every scar, drew me back to his hospital. We danced around the inevitable, our conversations laced with sarcasm, silence, and the kind of tension that begged to be broken. One night, I found him outside the hospital, sitting alone on the steps, his face buried in his hands. "Rough day?" I asked, my voice softer than I meant it to be. He looked up, eyes red-rimmed, exhaustion etched into every line of his face. "I lost a patient. Kid. 15. I did everything I could. But..." His voice cracked, and he swallowed hard. "Sometimes I wonder if I'm strong enough for this." Without thinking, I sat beside him. For once, I didn't try to be the alpha with all the answers. I just said the truth. "You are. Stronger than you know. Stronger than me, probably." He laughed, shaky and bitter. "That's a lie." "No," I said, turning toward him. "You heal people. You face death every day, and you still choose to fight. That's strength, Ethan. The kind I'll never have." He blinked at me, the weight of my words sinking in. And then, for the first time, I let myself touch him, not in passing, not as an accident, but deliberately. My hand brushed his, fingers lingering. His breath caught. "Adrian," he whispered. That single moment shifted everything. It wasn't a kiss. It wasn't some dramatic confession. It was a simple touch, but it carried more truth than either of us had dared to speak. Still, life had one more cruel twist in store for us. 2 weeks later, during a sting operation gone wrong, I was cornered. A suspect's gun pressed against my temple, my squad scattered, and all I could think was I'd never see Ethan again. My heart hammered not with fear of death, but with regret. But fate wasn't finished. SWAT burst in, the chaos ended in seconds, and I lived. Barely. Ethan was the first face I saw when they wheeled me into the ER. His hands were trembling as he worked, his eyes wet but fierce. "You stupid, reckless bastard," he muttered, stitching me up like he wanted to punch me and hold me all at once. "Do you have any idea what you're doing to me?" "Yes," I said, my voice hoarse but steady. "I'm falling in love with you." Silence hung heavy in the room. His hands stilled. His eyes met mine, wide, searching, vulnerable. "You can't just say that like it's nothing," he whispered. "It's not nothing," I told him. "It's the only thing that's ever felt real." And then, finally, we broke. His lips crashed against mine, desperate, messy, and absolutely perfect. All the walls, all the years of fear and denial, crumbled in that single kiss. For once, I wasn't Detective Hale, the alpha with a badge. I was just Adrian, a man who had finally found someone worth breaking for. After that night, things didn't magically become easy. Love never is. We fought about my job, about his hours, about the dangers we both lived with. But every argument ended the same way, with us choosing each other again and again. Months passed. The city was still cruel, but somehow it felt different. Maybe because I had someone waiting for me when the night ended. Maybe because I finally understood what it meant to be alive. One evening, after a long shift, I found Ethan asleep on the couch, medical charts scattered around him. I watched him for a long time, the rise and fall of his chest, the peace on his face. For the first time in years, I let myself believe in something more than survival. I sat beside him, brushed a strand of hair from his forehead, and whispered words he'd never hear in that moment, but ones I needed to say. "You rewrote me, Ethan, and I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you know it." His eyes fluttered open, sleepy but warm. He smiled, that soft, infuriating, beautiful smile that had undone me from the start. "What are you staring at?" he murmured. "My future," I answered. And this time I didn't run from the truth. The city still roared. Sirens still echoed, blood still spilled, lives still broke. But in the middle of all that chaos, we found something unshakable. Something that wasn't about alpha or beta, badge or stethoscope. It was about love. And against every odd, in a world that wanted to tear us apart, we chose to stand together. Always, thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.